Today, we actually are very privileged to be able to invite 3 of our very distinguished alumni, young and already very successful. Okay, there is a common theme amongst the 3 of them, and that is they are all their own bosses. Okay, and that's why today we have the topic entrepreneurship. Okay, I cannot remember exactly which year they graduated. Okay, but they definitely stepped out of real estate after they graduated and venture into industries which are not quite what most of our graduates would do. Okay, and they actually struck out, into their own business, and although their businesses today probably were crisscrossed with real estate, but when they started their business, is purely based on their entrepreneurial spirit, and I think that's what we want to hear from them. Okay? Now, so let me now go through this the introduction for Yiping. Yiping is a partner for Fund 2 Asia at Quest Ventures. Okay, it's a leading venture fund, okay, for technology companies that have scalability and replicability in large internet communities. So prior to this, she was the chief product officer of MatahariMall.com. Okay, I think those of you been to Indonesia, this is a really big retail chain. It's the largest omnichannel fashion e-commerce site in Indonesia. Okay, I think last year, 2019, right? Yiping actually won the Outstanding Young Alumni Award from NUS, and in fact, she was named as a top 100 most influential persons during our university's 100th anniversary celebration in 2005. Okay, she's been a strong advocate for female entrepreneurship, and she's also a board member of Female Founders Network, and formerly an executive member of the Mobile Alliance Singapore. She's also frequently invited to speak, like, in this webinars in Asia, as well as female-focused events. Okay, so she's quite popular. Okay, and I think people see her as a role model. Okay, she of course graduated with our Bachelor of Science in real estate, and as I said earlier, she actually struck out onto her own business venture. So may I now have the pleasure to invite Yiping to share her story. Yiping, please.
Thank you, Prof. Thanks for the kind words. Hi, everyone. Hi, my name is Yiping, and well, my story is one that is of one very humble background. So at the age of 8, most people didn't know that I actually started working. It's you might ask, for 8 years old, what can you do, right? So when I was really young, my parents owned a food store. It's a tiny food store selling roasted shoba, shokwe, that kind of meats. And I was the cashier, chili sauce preparer. I clean out animal parts, whatever. And so since young, I actually have seen my parents work really hard trying to get out of lower income group. So I think we are of a family that is lower middle, probably closer to lower income group, and they were really struggling to get us out of that income group and make more money, right, for the family. And that's kind of how I started witnessing entrepreneurship in its most basic days when I was really young. And I've since watched and observed how my parents go through a journey of strong success. In a Chinese way, it's very funny because I remember vividly when we were making good money, I was drinking bird's nest every other day. But when business was really bad, my parents had to send me to become a spy to go and check out other roasted meat store to see how other competitors are doing nearby. And that's kind of like, I would say, I have friends who tell me, if they go through that, you'll probably make or break them. And somehow I think it became a motivation for me. I saw that when you're very successful, or of the things and enjoyment you can have, but also in when you are no longer doing well, failing, which in the end my parents did close their food store. You also see that kind of sacrifice and pain. Ever since then, I guess, as I walked the path, towards adulthood, I was always curious about entrepreneurship. I wanted to get more experience. I wanted to do a business in when I become older. So ever since 10 and following years, I was always part-timing in jobs whenever I can. Holidays or weekends, I'm always working from McDonald's all the way to waitressing, to Singtel, selling phones, to all kinds of jobs. I probably have more than 10 jobs. And I was able to support myself through NUS education. And all the multiple, I guess, activities. If I was doing NUS diving, it's because I've saved enough for it. Yeah, so I kind of went through that life where I wanted to be independent financially, not to create any financial burden to my parents who's already struggling. And I have 2 other siblings. So that's kind of like my background. When I was in real estate, there was this opportunity that came about. I was very curious with exchange programs, but really at that time, our family just couldn't afford a 6 months exchange program where it's going to cost 10,000 probably to stay in a foreign country. So the program, NUS Overseas Colleges, NOC, came by, and it was in its infancy. So the NUS Overseas College is an entrepreneurship program where real estate, the School of Real Estate would be okay to send me to overseas for a year, where I could map back my modules and to really give a hand at what a technology entrepreneurship looked like. And I went on that journey. So I went to Philadelphia in US with the hope that I will actually get inspired to come back with new ideas to work on. And with the blessing of real estate, I went. And interestingly, so I went in 2003, I came back 2004, really with a business idea. So at that time, there was a very early startup at business plan competition held by NUS, and we won the competition. It gave us, I think, 30 to 40,000 prize money. And with that, I put the whole sum of money into the company. So it was really to start the company, and who knows, right? By year 4, I was juggling the first company ever. It's a tech company, something new, and also juggling going to classes and still try to do well in school, and graduated nicely in year 4. So that was the first one. And the first business for a real estate student, you must be thinking, or I must be thinking myself that, wow, what kind of guts or balls does this person have? So the first startup was to create a mobile roaming network on planes and ferries. So this is something that is very common today. You can roam on planes as you travel. And back then in 2004, it's way too early. Probably I would say this idea is 10 years too early. So I met a team in US and we started working on this project, and there were a lot of technical leads that I was working with. So that kind of started my first tech journey. The first 2 companies that I set up, unfortunately, did not become successful. There were many reasons. Some of them were that the stage of Southeast Asia technology scene, venture capital, is also not mature. There's not enough funds to go around funding tech companies. Number 2 is the ideas is probably also a little bit too ahead of its time. And number 3 is at that time, there is still hardware culture, not so much software cultures. It's pre-iPhone days. The hardware culture makes startups more expensive to build. because of the higher capital outlay compared to today. And I need to be thankful that the third business I started, which is called REDAS Asia, it is an e-commerce deal company, aggregation company. So in the e-commerce and coupon space. So REDAS Asia, I started with my younger brother at 2010, and we sold to Lipo Group within 2014. So that's about 4 years. REDAS Asia is something that is, I guess, not just formative, but it's also, it puts me into a lot of situation to kind of understand how to play in the venture capital world and technology world, because fundraising is a very different space from just doing brick and mortar business. There's a lot of fundraising going to happening, and it also put me in a situation where there's so much competition. It is really at a peak of digitalization. Pre-Groupon days, the only time that you would go online to book something is a hotel or a airline ticket. But when Groupon came around 2010, it was the first time people started buying goods and tickets and F&B vouchers. And that is a huge game changer in that sense. Everything is beginning to go towards really digital coupons. Everything is so digital and mobile related. So I went to, as part of the acquisition, I moved to Jakarta, in which I helped Lipo Group as a co-founding team to set up Matahari Mall as an offshoot of the offline retail Matahari departmental store. They have about 130 over stores, chain stores in the whole of Indonesia. And the idea is to try to digitize that. I was there for 3 years, and Indonesia is again another huge turning point also in my professional journey and also my personal journey. I think I became a better person in some sense. I think there's a lot to be learned from our neighbors. And there's also lots of, I guess, precious lessons on how to work closely with our neighbors. And also it's one of pushing ourselves to be able to adapt culturally speaking, as Indonesia is really very different from the straightforward Singapore culture. I don't think there's any good or bad in either culture. It's just that there's just so much distinctiveness in the culture that it requires lots of agility and understanding and also sincerity to want to be a part of the culture. So from after Indonesia, I came back to Singapore, and I was already involved in the venture capital space as a part-time venture partner. I was helping out in deal sourcing for good startups to invest in, and also to help startups enter the rest of Southeast Asia, especially Indonesia. So through my experience as a venture partner in Quest, starting out part-time while I was still working in Lipo Group, I became a partner and somewhat like a co-founder. A partner is someone who raised money together to set up a new fund. So now I'm a VC fund manager in Quest, and now we invest in technology companies. I think it is a culmination of kind of connecting the dots for myself, kind of putting all this startup understanding, network, fellow VC friends, really trying to close the loop and also help reduce market access problems and pains that our startups have as they expand overseas. So the idea was that in this part of my life, I would like to do something that is trying to, bring myself to a place of huge value and to become an ecosystem player. And one day I will start up my business again.
Thank you. I think, there's so much that you have shared with us, especially, apart from your successes. I think what is very clear is that, you really need to put in the hard work, right? And it is always, well, the Chinese saying, 万事起头难. So starting a business is never the easiest thing to do. Okay, but of course, we also know that during crisis, it's always that opportunity for people to start. In fact, what you see in common amongst the companies like GM, Airbnb, like CNN, like Uber. In fact, all these companies all started during a crisis. So I think sometimes a crisis like this will actually bring out the strength in individuals as well as in groups in doing business and so on. Okay, let me now move on to the second speaker, Mr. Mark Lee. Mark is the Managing Director of Asia Fund Space. Okay, Mark joined the finance industry in 2002 after his graduation and established a reputation as a reliable, resourceful investor relations practitioner. So during his tenure in Singapore, he assisted to accrue the company's IR clientele base into one of the largest in Asia and built up a strong database of more than 6,000 fund managers across Asia. He left Singapore to expand the company's operations in Hong Kong in 2008. Mark was an advocate of innovative investor relations initiatives and has chartered 300 plus roadshows and investors conferences across Asia. Leveraging on his experience network with more than 6,000 plus fund managers and analysts, he is emulating to push investor relations into the online space. Okay. I also want to add that he didn't put in his thing. He has been a strong supporter of the department. I think in May we had this info session. He was also, came back to support us to think, and he has been also been providing financial support. He created the Asian Fund Space Scholarship for our undergraduates. Thank you, Mark. So the stage is yours.
Firstly, I must thank Prof. Yu and SDE for inviting me to join this webinar. I am a very normal chap when I was in SDE. I think I went in 98. I enrolled in 98 and graduated in 02. During my time, I wasn't a very hardworking student, I must admit. I spent most of my time playing bridge, playing Chotaiti, and then having fun, and somehow I still managed to graduate with a second upper. I'm very lucky. I'm very lucky, and thanks to the professors. Yeah. So when I graduated, the first job I landed was actually as a research associate, RA in one of the local banks. So I was quite lucky because a certain professor recommended me the job in the bank, and I joined. Yeah, just because I actually don't know what I want to do also when I first graduate. So I thought I was pretty good with numbers, so I joined. So I spent about 5-6 months churning numbers on spreadsheets. I discovered I can do spreadsheets very well. And all the senior analysts, they start to bully me. They say, okay, I don't want to do this now. You go ahead and help me churn out the reports. So for 6 months, I was just at the desk bound and doing all these numbers. I found that I wasn't very interested in it, to be honest. Then I discovered, okay, why not? Then I go into sales. So then I resigned 6 months, and then I joined a bank again to do sales. But I found out I wasn't very interested to sell financial products to retail investors. Yeah. So then around an opportunity came. A friend of mine recommended me to this group of people. They were doing public relations. They were doing public relations, just normally promoting listed companies and companies going IPO. So when I joined, I think I suddenly became, it's actually quite interesting because you sit down with the with the management, the CEOs of the company. You listen to them, and you discover that actually they are very good. They're very good in their own space. That means if you're a manufacturer, you know exactly what you need. You know exactly how the process goes. But when you try to explain it to an investor, I think they garang gabok. They really don't know how to explain, because in their layman they try to add in all the jargons, all the technical stuff, and then the investors just got switch off. Yeah. So that so-called business is called investor relations. How you build relations with investors. So somehow I got into the business, and actually my first client was also a real estate guy. Last time in Hesing. So I went to Mr. Jack Chua, and then somehow he gave me a project, and I think we did fairly well. I think Mr. Chua was very impressed. Jack will say, "Okay, you did well. Okay, let me refer you." And subsequently just built on then. And I must say again, I was pretty lucky at the time, because 02, when we graduated, wasn't that bad a year, but 03 we had the SARS. But the SARS, just like now, except that SARS wasn't that bad, you see. So fortunately at that time, it was just I think a 6 months, 8 months type of stuff, and we weren't really quarantined at home, you know. So business as usual, and that time happens to be a flourish of Chinese companies coming to Singapore for IPOs, and it happens that I speak pretty fluent Mandarin, and I'm able to communicate with these Chinese bosses pretty well, which I later found to be of great help for me in my career subsequently. So from there we just started. We just started from four tables and five guys, five staff, and we grew really big over from 03 all the way to 07. We became the largest in our own space in Singapore. At the peak, we had like 70 listed companies as our clients, and I even have a couple of the Temasek Link company, the TLCs, as my client as well. So yeah, we were very happy. We were making good money, you know. But you know, in Chinese, there's this saying in Chinese that says, 人无远虑，必有近忧. That means you don't worry about whatever is far away. You start looking at what is in front of you. You know, we figure that the good times won't last forever. So I spoke to my partners, and then we said, okay, why not because I was the only one who have not had a family then. I said, why not I pack my bag and I go over to Hong Kong to expand it further then. Yeah, so 08 I pack up, and then I said, okay, let's go then, because you know, I still have my Singapore as a support, you see. So I landed there, and I'm quite lucky again. I managed to sign a few clients within the first few months. So I started being noted in Hong Kong, you know, and then my competitor will start bad-mouthing me and saying that I'm a you know, the Hong Kong, they like to call us Sing Zai. It means we are from Singapore, we are just a country plunking, we don't know anything. And then in Hong Kong, again, the culture is very different in doing business. In Singapore, everything is very strict, go by the book contracts, you know, open tender, stuff like that. In Hong Kong, a lot of it actually boils down to relationships. Yeah. You know, my competitor will tell me that, oh, these clients, they graduated from the same university as me. My wife is a friend of his wife, and they go and dine together, you know. So they try to put me down there. So I was stuck, I guess, for the first year with just a couple of clients, and just couldn't find a way how to tweak around it. Yeah. But quite good in the sense that I opened myself up to some of the associations in Hong Kong. You know, I started joining a lot of these clans associations, you know, in Hong Kong. I am the secretary of the Quanzhou city, you know, entrepreneur in Hong Kong. So all the Fujian, all the Xiamen bosses, we all gather together for yam cha, for tea on weekends. We chit chat, and then they start to refer clients to us. And And also I start to realize that there are certain things that the Hong Kong competitors, they don't do, that we do, that we can do, except that it will be tiring. So I said, okay, let's do something that they don't want to do now. And then maybe tomorrow, we will do something that they cannot do. Okay. So I start to do all this very, very tiring, time-consuming stuff that my competitor don't want to do. And then gradually, I start to earn a little bit of notice with the listed companies. And my biggest break actually came in, I was there in 2008. My biggest break came in 2011, where I signed the largest state-owned enterprise in Guangdong, 交通集团, they call it the 交通集团, loosely translated as the transportation group. So 交通集团 is the largest state-owned enterprise in Guangdong. Somehow I and the bosses, the chairman, we speak, and then we like each other, and then they signed. They gave us the contract. It was a shock to quite a lot of my local competitors there. And then from there, people start to take notice of us. And also in the same year, 2011, I happened to meet the boss of the largest public relation company in China. They were really big. They just got listed in 2011, and they start buying a lot of companies and all that. So through a friend's recommendation, we sat down, and then we started chit chat, and he kind of liked what we are doing. And then he said, why not I buy you? You see, you know, the Chinese, they want to be lao da. They always want to be the boss. You see. So at the start, I said, no lah, if you buy me, what am I going to do? You know, I got nothing to do. Yeah, then why not I give you a small stake first, and then we work out the relationship, and then we see how. So in 2011, I sold him a small stake. I got some money. My partners got some money. We start buying our own houses, our own apartments, and stuff like that. Yeah. And then I decided, since I have a good partner now in China, 2011, I said, okay, let's do it. I'm going to China now. So I packed my bag again. After 4 years, then I went over to Beijing. I camped in Beijing for a year. Yeah. And I started to learn their culture and try to do the things they do. And I have to admit, I thought I had success in Hong Kong, so I said I replicate the success in Beijing. Then I realized that in Beijing it's even tougher, because they have their own band of friends and people. Then it's not easy to get in there, you see. So it seems like I was signing like a client every 6 weeks or 8 weeks, you know. It wasn't enough to meet our expansion then. So after a year, I told this Beijing partner that, okay, why not I sell you the whole company? I will then switch to fly your flag instead of my own flag. You see, so I'll take down my flag or fly your flag. How about it? Of course he's happy. Of course he's happy, and he gave me a very good valuation. Gave me a super valuation. So we decided, we signed. Of course, then I have to be bound in my role for the next couple of years. But it helped me a lot, because over the next couple of years, instead of flying my own flag, I fly his flag. Oh, our business came by days. Every other days, I was signing a new account. You see, a new client, and to the extent that I signed some of the biggest companies ever, even bigger than Singtel and Capital Land. You know, I signed some big boys, and I shake hand with. I managed to shake hand even with Jack Ma. You know, now my company is doing some consultancy work for his subsidiary that is going for listing, and I put it down to really that 10+ years that I spent in Hong Kong and China, really working up the relationships there. Yeah. So well, I finished my tour of duty back in 2016, and I started. Then I just came back to Singapore, and then after I came back to Singapore, I thought for a while, what exactly do I want to do, and I found that I have this good network in China. I know a lot of people in China. I know a lot of people in Hong Kong. And I said that, hey, why not I put it to some good use then? and quite also, again, a stroke of luck, I met up with a good friend of mine. And the last time I met him in Singapore back in 07 or 06, he was just a very small developer. He was just a very small developer and doing some small development. But the time when I met him in 17, he already had a listed company here in Singapore, and they were doing quite many projects then, big residential projects. So we met up for coffee, for drinks, and he said that, okay, why not I take a stick in you? I said, oh wow, now I'm getting into marriage for a second time again. Yeah, you see. But he's a jolly good fella then, so I like him. I give him a small stake, and then we say, okay, let's be friends, and we see what we can work out in the future. Then, you see, that was 17. Then 18, probably the year that I foolishly made some wrong decision. That was my biggest failure was in 18. Yeah, not everything is a successful, you know, by a stroke of luck. 2018, I made a wrong decision. I actually tried to buy a listed company. I tried to buy a listed company, main board. Yeah, and it's a project that most of the bankers turned away. They were scared. They said no, it's impossible to do it. You know, I decided, well, let's try it. You know, let's try it, and try to, because I also made some investments in Yangon, Myanmar. So I said, okay, why not I put this project into this listed company that's going bankrupt, and then let's try it. Unfortunately, it was a little too tough for me. Yeah, I was still very raw, I must say. So I hit my first failure. I spent a lot of money on legal fees just in Singapore and US. Things didn't work out. And then after a couple of, I think close to a year, we said, okay, we forward. Yeah, we stopped the project. Yeah. If you Google my company's name, you can see it. It's public information. Because that listed company has 20,000 shareholders. And I thought I could try to rescue these 20,000 shareholders. But unfortunately, it's a little bit too tough for me. Yeah, so 2018 then, that's how it's ended. So now you can say that I am in a way, in a semi-retired mode. You know, I pick projects now. I pick projects to do. I try to get projects that you know, warm the cockeries on my heart, you know. Yeah. I don't try to force myself to say that, oh, every year I must do 3 projects, I must do 2 projects, you know. I pick projects that I like, and I can blend with the bosses, you know. The bosses and I, we speak the same tone, and then I can bring my resources from China, from Hong Kong. Yeah. Just like the shareholders who my friend who took a stake in me, this COVID-19 has hit him pretty hard, because all the residential developers are finding it very tough to sell their units now, and you know in like pandemics like this, banks usually try to close their windows, their umbrellas. You see, when it's sunshine, they offer you umbrellas, but when it's pandemic, they close up the umbrellas. You see, so I offered my help. You know, I have contacts, so they said, yeah, please, it's a great help. Then, yeah. So we're trying to work something out. Yeah. So for myself now, Asia Fund Space is a advisory firm. We are also doing several advisory projects now. Some for even some of the provincial government in China. We're also doing some of the projects for some of the REITs here in Singapore. Yeah. So in a way, that's how it turns out. Yeah.
Thank you.
Looks
like you have gone through some, you know, most of us would, you know, spend our whole career, whole lifetime trying to pursue and get the same sort of success that you have. You have done so much.
I was lucky.
Yeah, but luck doesn't just come to anybody, right? Okay. Anyway, thank you for sharing on that. Let's move on to our third panelist. And we actually move on to a very new territory because Kenny Ng. Kenny is the director of Northern Asia. Okay, those of you who know Garden Asia, it is this entertainment arm of the NIFO group, okay, and a thought leader in the farm entertainment space. Okay, so Kenny's family, okay, they own NIFO, and he is the 4th generation, right? So I earlier said to Yiping that, you know, 万事起头难. But in Kenny's Eng, I should say that, you know, 起业难, 守业更难. So I think, you know, he has already achieved that as a 4th generation, and he's still keeping the family business going. Okay, but Kenny has his own ideas, so he tried to bring in the entertainment part. So he has created this leisure and homestay sort of environment in his farm. Okay, and of course, Garden Asia aims to draw people close to nature through curated experiences and the things that now we talk about, from farm to table. And here, in fact, you know, the department, we actually organize some of our retreat sessions at his farm, and we've actually found it quite interesting, very conducive environment, and very interesting. Kenny, besides his doing his own business, he's also he was the president of the Countryside Association, okay, from March 2014 to 2019. And he obviously, under his leadership, the Countryside Association has been instrumental in organizing big conferences, and obviously they have this quite regular farmers market. He was also a council member of the National Youth Council, a Scape Company Limited board member, and part of the Singapore Youth Olympic Games Organizing Committee. So, Kenny, you are a man of many talents. So we shall now ask you to share with us about your farming business.
Hi everyone, thanks for having me. I think after listening to Yiping and Mark, I really realized that, wow, times have been so different, you know, in different entrepreneurs' mindset. But I think after listening to them, I also realized that, you know, to entrepreneurs, failures is never seen as failures. We always see it as a learning point, and we keep moving on, keep, you know, looking at things differently. So today itself, I have to do a little bit different. As how Prof has introduced me, I'm the only farmer here, so I have to set a backdrop. You know, if you talk about VCs, you talk about REITs, you talk about real estate, everybody understands. But if you talk about farming, it's a bit quite far-fetched from real estate. But for those students in this webinar, you know, I still remember we learned this in urban planning, landscaping, maintenance is one part of it. Architecture, we also learned something about communal design when you go into space planning. So I'm still attached to this part of it, just that it was never been talked about until now. So I have actually prepared a couple of slides to share with all about my journey. But before I go into the slides, I just wanted to give a backdrop of when I graduated in '99, that's almost 20 years ago. It's pretty much similar to you guys right now, all right, that's graduating in this COVID situation. I still remember my friend who graduated with an honors degree, starting pay was only 1,005. Can you imagine that? That was how tough it was. And for my case itself, it was even much more interesting, right? I was looking for jobs. I applied for, and my time, I remember all my peers all apply for government jobs because that's the one that is still employing. Whether JTC, HDB, STB, some went to MOE, you name them, everybody just went into government agency because the private sector is not employing. And one of the key things that I tried as well, but I got no interviews. So I went on by chance that my uncle actually asked me to start kind of a little roadshow for him, introducing water features into indoor space. And I say, since I have the time, why not? You know, but this is the part that nobody taught me. Nobody told me that once you're in a family business, you're in for life. So I'm stuck there till now. I can't get out anymore. So, but I think in a family business, it's a very different journey. All I can say is that in business, actually, frankly, as an entrepreneur, we face 3 challenges: time, money, people. And the most important thing that we all face as entrepreneurs is to get the right people for the right job. And I think that's what we will face whatever we do. So you must love managing people in entrepreneurship. You can't be just a techie guy because at the end of the day, it's the people that fails you. So let me just get into the momentum. I have prepared some slides so that you can get an understanding of my industry, but I thought to make today's conversation a little bit more excitable is I want to bring it to current. And just last year, I have a first pop-up store right smack in Orchard Road, and I thought I want to use that as a case study to share with everybody what's the future like, all right? So that you can understand that real estate is not just about real estate anymore because times have changed because of COVID. I really proud to tell people that I'm disrupting agriculture as a disruptor because, you know, there's always disruption in transport called Grab and Uber, disruption in hotel called Airbnb. And say, hey, who is going to disrupt agriculture? Because horticulture myself is part of agriculture. And I thought, hey, let's do something. And I'm really blessed because I have served the farming community for 15 years. I was the president for 5 years. I did a Commonwealth conference. I met up with the princess before. Hosted quite a number of delegates around the world. And I realized that actually Singapore is well poised to have our food story. And just like our water story, we have a huge potential to become the consultants and kind of thought leadership in urban planning to tell people how agriculture can be in place into real estate. So the next thing itself is that I'm definitely a local farmer. So I'm a 4th generation. We are 109 this year. These are my siblings, 3 of us. I'm the eldest, and we literally did something different this last year, April, called Moscape, which I'm going to share you later as well. As I was just sharing, everybody will come to a road, especially for those graduating this year. I really feel you because I went through that same route during my time. All right, and that time itself, employment was really non-existent, and finding interviews are just as difficult as well. But I was fortunate in a sense that I have a family business, but unfortunate because during that period itself, my company actually went through the roughest patch. We almost lost our business, all right, because we were asked to shift from 2 locations to where we are today. Family had to sell properties just to restart everything. We almost went bankrupt, you know. So I joined the family when we are going downhill. And it was really tough. Literally, I was like starting the whole business from ground up, trying to understand what the farming industry is all about, what landscape is all about. And that took a really less traveled route. It was very painful because when the economy starts to pick up, all my peers are doing very well in the scene. And then I myself was looking at myself and my pay is so low, why everybody is doing well? Am I in the wrong industry? You know, that kind of constant frustration is in us all the time as an entrepreneur. And that really took us a long haul for 20 years. So I have a short video. I hope the internet won't play me out. This will give you a glimpse of where we are, all right? So this is my nursery, and MediaCorp filmed this in my nursery for 4 months, yeah. All right, going to stop here. So I think that video itself was just very fortunate. They took our business idea and filmed it into a 30 episode. But of course, the storyline wasn't about our family. It's just the business part of things because they need to dramatize it to make it excitable. But I thought that video will give you a glimpse of the future of industry that is not looked at all the time because they are always treated as non-existent or not important or sunset. But I think there's a lot of things that we have learned over the years when we went to hortitainment or agritainment. things have changed. So what I'm going to share with you is the current backdrop, all right? So that I think let's bring to current. So in today's COVID situation, everybody knows that climate change is so important, all right? From Paris Treaty that we signed on, all the real estate that I spoke to from CapitaLand, etc., when I was consulting them in some of the sustainability events that we wanted to organize for them, they are all talking about this as well. How can we try to change people's mindset to take care of their mother nature, etc.? So this is one pie that a lot of people are talking about, and I think a lot of people started to be more focused on eco, more focused on what the climate change is. On the second part of things itself is about food security, which I'm really up my sleeve. I was very blessed to work with the farmers for the past 15 years, and I get to understand the world's problem. Farmers in Australia, New Zealand, even South Africa, etc. You know that they are really very different, but at the same time, we all face the same challenges itself. You'll be very surprised what their concerns are, and Singapore is sought after as a role model that they are looking after. I'm not kidding you guys, all right? Singapore are really sought after by many people around the world to see how we actually make agriculture into something very different. So with that backdrop itself, I'm going to share with you a case study. I'll make it quick, all right, about how we then brought what the video you have seen from Hortitainment and how we actually brought it into the city right smack in Orchard Road. And then it will be the future because many people are looking into this as a holistic retail platform. So where we actually were right smack in Scott Square. It was just a pop-up store. It came by opportunity because my brother was assisting them in their landscape things. And then the Hermes was coming out, and then they wanted just a temporary 4 months concept. And then they came to talk to us. We conceptualized the whole idea of what we had done in the farm, and we pushed it through into the mall. It was 4 months, but then we did so well that we were given opportunities to extend, and we're ending the run this coming month for 16 months straight because a new tenant is coming in and they are reorganizing the space. But we're really happy about this because it gives us the whole idea about what the future needs are. Retail is dead in town, as everyone knows, but this is what I feel that will be a very different concept moving forward post-COVID. So in the whole retail concept, what we did was that we call it the eat, work, play concept, whereby in the retail environment, people are no longer going after products. So what we did was that we actually curated retail space, F&B space, and workshop space where people can enjoy the whole retail experience. I think this is nothing new. Adidas is doing that. Nike is doing that. A lot of other big brands are also doing this. So why am I sharing this? Just remember the backdrop itself is that what is the opportunity in industry that you never thought is possible, but you know, we are actually coming out because of food security and climate change. There's a lot of potentials moving on in this space. So I started the local farm last year as well to support the local farmers. Quite natural for me because I've been serving them. I understand their plight. I understand what it is. And one of the things that I always realize is that I like to mentor the younger generation because it's very hard to find graduates in farming industry. So if I find one like Chelsea from Frog Farmer was an NUS grad, I hold her tightly. I try to convince her, brainwash her to continue to be a farmer. If not, I got no friends that's in this arena. But I mean, jokes aside, I really hope that, you know, the younger generation continue to grow food because no farmers, no food. And I think this is something that's up my sleeve. I find that this is my purpose, and I was just lucky, blessed that I was given the trust by all these farmers to lead them, and I really learn a lot from them as I go along. So in the workspace itself, we actually started to do more consultancy to green up spaces. So this is more to real estate, you know, where we can now go into easier greening spaces rather than just the green walls. That's using preserve is our concept. So we have started to get a lot more projects both locally and regionally because of that as well, creating something different because indoor space greening is very little. Farmers market consultancy is also something that I specialize in. We did the first farmers market right in Scott Square just last December, outside Scott Square. And I think that is something that we want to see more. But of course, of COVID, we can't do more from them as well. I'm an Uncle Kenny to all the kids. I've been training them about nature since young. And then at the same time, we organize space. So in this play concept, I think the potential in real estate is that we have to crossbreed every single thing. You never know that I can actually work with Yiping and Mark, all right, to go something into nature one day. So don't always be fixated into the modules that you have learned in class, because when you come out from the world, the whole module is useless because you have to infuse other knowledge to make it work for you. But you have to continue engaging your experiences. And one of the cool things that you have, and why are you part of this whole alumni, is that in the SDE environment, you can see that there's a lot of people around us, and especially when you age, mature, like me now, all right, all my peers are in the directorship, you know, in various companies, and that's where your network starts to form. But you have to be very persistent. So I think in a long shot, I can share with you, you know, I just wanted to spend a little bit more time because my industry is really not something that people can understand. So I think this is something that you all know, that constant in life is always change. And this COVID is going to reset a lot of things, and we're going to change even more. All right, so we just have to keep on going, believe in your purpose, believe in what you're doing. As entrepreneurs, it's not an easy job. Not everybody can be an entrepreneur, but you can have the entrepreneurial spirit. All right, so that's what I have to share before today.
Thank you, Kenny. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
That was quite interesting. Yeah, I actually now this farming thing is quite a big thing, right? And I think the Singapore government is going a big way. I just received my packet of seeds from NParks, you know, so I'm going to see what I can grow out of them. Yeah, so I suppose the Singapore government was trying to make us all self-sufficient in some way, at least, you know. And of course, I also recently read that, you know, in the underground MRT station in Korea, you know, they actually created a farm, right? And that created an artificial farm in a sense, you know, but they actually grow real vegetables and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Yeah.
That can be done, right, Kenny?
Yeah. There's a lot of opportunities. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you all for sharing with us, you know, this very rich and very powerful stories that you all have. And I think for each of you all have basically said that, you know, to get started, you know, you need to have grit. You cannot stop dreaming. Don't give up your dreams. You know, you will come across a lot of obstacles, but you also will need that kind of what we say EQ, building relationship, building networks, you know, and you need to overcome many challenges, many obstacles. Okay, especially if you are venturing into something which is outside of your comfort zone. And I think all three of you, in some ways, you actually have done that. So apart from your own, that since you are also our real estate alumni, what do you all think, you know, will be the critical lessons that we should learn from this COVID-19 pandemic? Insofar as perhaps two things, how would the skill sets and would that change? What sort of things that we need to emphasize in our curriculum, and what are the real emerging opportunities and new types of real estate employment? So perhaps, you know, we go back to Yiping and ask her for her comments on those questions.
Maybe just let me share a little bit more about COVID-19, or even actually before COVID-19. I am with the view of with Mark and Kenny that change is constant, and that we really cannot be, especially for young graduates that we have in the group right now, that the degree that we have is really sometimes a false sense of security in that sense, right? Because the moment we really graduate, most of this, probably nearly 100%, is not quite applicable. Things would have changed, or that we just couldn't apply textbook examples. I would have to say that pre-COVID, the things that I'm doing since graduation has always been things that are of interest to me, regardless of whether it's real estate or not, and it requires so many different skill sets. And I would say mainly it's a lot of soft skills, like what Mark said, right? There's a lot of relationship cultivation. There's a lot of, I guess, sincerity too, in being interested in people, resilience. Kenny also mentioned about that entrepreneurs' mindset is one that is undeterred by failures. So we just keep going. And Mark's I think example really showed very clearly, even at 2018, something so close, I'm sure it's still very close to heart right now. I do think that COVID has pushed, or I mean, accelerated the use of digital even more. I think I have a big bunch of friends who are in real estate, or in other industries. And sometimes I sense that in their industry, there is still not a good sense of adoption in digital technologies. And what it has accelerated right now is this is here, way earlier than it's supposed to be. I mean, in the last 3-5 years, we kept talking about AI. And now it's not even just AI, it's just remote working, it's about, it's just a lot about what is even co-working. That was a recent, co-working and co-living, which is like a 3 to 5 years concept. It's being disrupted as we are speaking right now. So the speed of change is way more accelerated than ever before. I think it took us decades to go to space. Now it's just gonna take us weeks and months to go, adopt a new type of technology. And I think that there is this, if there's any more resistance, I think this is a good time to kind of start being a huge lover. I think TikTok make it easier, I guess. So I think that is COVID in that sense, the digital adoption. I would call it maybe digital transformation, especially for businesses, enterprises, family businesses. And it's a space that we see very clearly in VC space, where we work together with many traditional industry to actually digitally transform themselves. I think that's one. I think in the space of opportunities, well, the list is super long. I think just what Kenny mentioned, it will already be, for example, in agri-tech, food security, food technology, and that is a change of demand in how real estate look like. And fintech is a huge piece where blockchain, we see lots of business plans that are trying to digitize title deeds into something decentralized in many countries. And even real estate financing the face is changing. Even in first world and the developing world is rapidly changing. We see startups doing anywhere from mortgage financing to down payment financing to peer-to-peer financing through peer-to-peer financing mechanisms. So we need to kind of also kind of reflect what's the role of banks today. Sure. And in that sense, I also mentioned even today, a few years ago, co-living and co-working, especially co-working, is the older concept. That in itself is still changing and how we use space. And Airbnb, of course, have changed how hoteliers work. And a big sense, I did a quick survey with my real estate alums, my year, 2005, we graduated. Many of them is in real estate finance or in property management, leasing also. They also see that because of the rise of e-commerce, there's a huge demand right now of data centers and logistics. So less and less, I think retail mall space or the traditional retail mall space, yes. But more of how does the new school of industrial space look like, or how does new retail look like Kenny's example?
Maybe I'd like to share with everybody a Chinese proverb, okay? In China, there's this Chinese proverb that says 羊毛出在羊身上. Okay, it means wool comes from sheep, not cotton. So wool comes from sheep, okay? But in China, recently, there's a new improvised proverb. It says 羊毛出在狗身上, 猪买单. In brief, it says wool now don't come from sheep, it comes from a dog, and the pig pays for it. So what does it mean? What does it mean by this proverb that it says 羊毛出在狗身上，猪买单? It's simply saying 你要做一个这个整合资源啊. That means your customer cannot be the customer of the old time. You have to start to look at it as in, are you able to use your traditional model to try to lure in other income source, other source of new revenue then, right? Let me give you an example. I have a very good friend from Shandong, China. He is a Singaporean now. So a couple of years back, he came to me. He says, "Hey, I want to start a new business." I said, "What is that business?" He says, I want Singaporean to drink fresh orange juice from a vending machine." So first thing I was like, "Huh? Really? You need to get fresh orange juice from a vending machine? Will it work or not? The Singaporean buys that or not?" You see. A couple of days ago, I just had a dinner and drink with him, and wow, what you are seeing now in all these shopping malls, all the orange juice vending machines are his. And he's making a cool buck, $1 million a year from just installing all these vending machines. And bearing in mind, this vending machine is a JV, meaning that he doesn't even have to cough up the money for the vending machine. He gets it on consignment from some JV with the Chinese manufacturer, came over here, get a profit sharing with the orange supplier, and then he starts to produce. So basically, he doesn't put much money in. He just brings everybody together, and he gets the money then, and he gets all this. And I must admit, and I don't quite believe him. So actually, what I did just yesterday was that I went to one of these vending machines and I really put the $2 in, and oh, it's quite great. It's fresh orange juice. And they're doing very well. You know, it shocked me. I said, "Hey, why didn't anybody thought of that then?" You see. So simple things like this, you know, often a lot of times I look at a lot of projects that they came my way. I say these are these are solutions looking for problems. You see, they don't really know what problems they want to solve. You see, and then they start looking around and all that. But you know, sometimes we just have to sit down and look at it. This is a traditional business. How are we able to then abstract other source of revenue from this? I mean, I look at my friend's vending machine. The next thing that comes to my mind is, wow, do you know your vending machine can add in advertisements? All I need to do is just add a panel and pump. I can give you, I did a calculation for him, I think close to 800,000 advertisements just from this vending machine. So things like this, you sit down and start to think, oh, what are the other ways that you can do it, you see? Like some of the business that I invested in, and because of COVID, their business had to stop. So I sit down with them and I said, what are the other channels that you can, you know, tweak around, and then we see what are other revenue source that you can generate then. So to all aspiring, you know, business people, you know, I would say that, yeah, besides constant change, the next thing you really have to sit down and see is that what are the other ways that we can do it, and must it be done in Singapore?
Yes.
You know, must it be done in Singapore? Because here I am, we were talking about real estate then, but just early this morning, I just had another teleconference with a company in China, and they're saying that, wow, you Singapore are amazing with smart cities. Can we learn something from you? I said, what do you need to learn from smart cities? He says, oh wow, we know nothing. We just thought we just put what the IoT stuff and all that. We try to make everything look woo-ha, you know. But is there a underlying principle or a spirit behind these smart cities, how to do it? And I realized, hey, yeah, I mean, what we have learned in university, you can also apply it not only in Singapore. Go China, go Vietnam. These are places that I have been to, and I think that they are in very good growth era.
Yep, definitely. Very. You need to have an open mind. Yeah, keep looking out for opportunities and so on. Okay, Kenny.
Yeah, I think I agree with the two speakers as well. But let me maybe give from another perspective. As an employer, what are we looking at today? I think that's more relevant to all the audience that are looking for jobs in the future. You know, frankly, we are looking for people because it's a given that all graduates have the knowledge. You guys are smarter. You guys have all the bandwidth of understanding what is IoT to blockchain at your era compared to maybe our time. But the more important thing that we're looking for is how grounded you are, how hungry you are. All right, hungry for information, hungry to grow, hungry to keep changing. These are things that is very important in the way moving forward. Entrepreneurship should be in everybody, but entrepreneur is not for everybody. Meaning to say is that not everybody can do a business, all right? But you must have the entrepreneur spirit. Entrepreneur spirit basically is just like sportsmanship, all right? You never see failures as failures. When you go into a war, you go into a game, you fight really hard, you give your best, but when you fail, you lose the game, you'll still be good friends outside the game as well. That kind of spirit is what entrepreneurship is all about. All right, you will fall many times, you'll pick up yourself again and you'll move on again. You're like what Mark have shared, you have to be constantly innovation, keep thinking out of the box. We cannot stay within the box because time is changing very fast. So ideas that was not thought for by other people, you have to start thinking about it as well. So I think my advice is that skill set, what to learn, frankly, the next batch of graduates, whatever they learn may be obsolete because of the current situation that we're in. So how do we predict what skill sets can we have? But rather be thankful that you have this knowledge that was being transferred in school, because ultimately it's all about people. It's about the peers that you have, but then constantly using that backdrop that you have from NUS or from your peers who are from your company, etc., to constantly adapt. I will never believe that, 20 years down the road today, I have to do live chats. I never believe it. During circuit breaker, I did 4 live chats with my farmers. Because if I don't do that, nobody will understand farming, right? So I became a host, I shared more, I started to do things, and I constantly dabble into social media because I know that that's the future, all right? And I constantly engage young people coming to my company as interns. I have a lot of interns that became my full-time staff, constantly having understanding their mindset because we need to mentor and mature them as well. But at the same time, I think what's really important is yourself. All right, knowledge is forever. There's no, even today, all the 3 of us here are still learning from each other. All right, so there's no, like say, one pill that can solve all your future solution, but rather yourself, you have to constantly be grounded, all right, understand what life is all about, and at the same time, understand why are you doing what you're doing. Yeah, that's my advice.
Thank you, Kenny. Yeah, the first one from Wei Ming, his question is, we understand that entrepreneurship is not an easy path. There are entrepreneurs who venture into different industry after success failure of the previous business. There are also some who continue in the same industry due to the familiarity. So what are your thoughts? And then somebody, Imelda, a rejoinder, says in her or his opinion, entrepreneur isn't shifting industry, actually only jump into where is the opportunity. The big picture is the same, how to make money. So what are your thoughts on those 2 comments and questions? Yiping?
I think Imelda's comment is not it's not wrong at all. I think it's a traditional understanding of doing businesses. I think in the tech startup world, it's a little bit nuanced. It's sometimes not so clear on monetization paths. I would think that tech entrepreneurs sometimes are also a bit idealistic sometimes. Not all, but somehow many are. One is in Quest, we see lots of different archetypes of startup founders. So one archetype would be one who is freshly graduated, very fresh, raw, like myself back then, highly energetic, hungry, really stay hungry, stay foolish in that sense. And it's a huge hustler and just hustle all the way. Doesn't do a startup that is related to what they are studying. Is really either transporting what is going on in China, India, US, and then try to do a clone in Southeast Asia. I think that's quite common. So that can be that young person. Then the second archetype we're seeing more and more these days are the corporate folks who's been few years or even more years. In recent years, more and more folks from corporate world who has been in the climbing corporate ladder for the last 20 years, they would become an entrepreneur. And coming with whole slew of experience in a very niche area, and making themselves very difficult to, I guess, compete with because of their domain knowledge. Usually they are also from a senior background in corporate world. So we're beginning to see more of that. And in the recent years, as the tech giants moved into Southeast Asia, more and more Facebook, Google, Amazon, ex-alumni, they are also becoming startup entrepreneurs. And again, these folks are either picking something that is very trendy or of a domain knowledge that they are used to. And then there's also another archetype, which is that how to say, a local, a sea turtle, we call it. So it could be a Singaporean or someone who's been based in Singapore for a while, and they would come back to Southeast Asia after they have graduated from overseas education. So they could have, graduated from Stanford, Harvard, one of those top schools, and they would come back with a very strong pedigree in their degree, and also are the ones that get selected to join Y Combinator back in US. So we're seeing that there are different archetypes, and each of these, and people who raise money from VC are not the typical businessman that Imelda would say. The typical businessmen somehow don't raise VC money. Yeah, so we don't see so much of the typical businessman, and we kind of hope that more startups put that businessman thinking too. So it's not just about traffic or user acquisition, but it's also about one day, where do we make money? Yeah, so we see various kinds.
Well, I kind of agree with Yiping also that you definitely need the different skill sets, and then cook with that. You need to have a business mind. How should I put it? Maybe I put it in a more simple way is that if you have a skill that is very good, you're at the top of your game, it's something that nobody can take it away from you. You see, and it's up to you to how to monetize that skill. You see, and believe it, some people, they're very good, but they really don't know. You see, they just believe in just doing the same thing. So people like us, we step in, and then I like business people, entrepreneurs who have skin in the game. You don't come to me with a business plan with nothing and say I got to take all the risks. So if we can share the risk together, yeah, I'll be more than happy. Yeah, I'm looking for people like that. And to be honest, nobody has the best idea. Sometimes you may have the best idea, but the timing is not right. So it's up to the person himself whether how much risk he wants to allocate and what is the right balance. Yeah. End of the day, yes, we all want to make money, but if you can make money while you're still enjoying it, doing what you like, I think that would be the icing on the cake.
I think I just wanted to answer to Wei Ming's message itself. We stay on in the same industry because we find it familiar, yes and no. Take for example, Nokia. Nokia was a paper company, and then it became a tech company thereafter. So they didn't go through the same route after many years later. Same to my own business itself. I'm a fourth generation. I don't think my great grandpa who planted trees in the past 100 over years will believe that we run restaurants now today. So what happens itself is that different generations, actually different period of time, I would say, that we will evolve. Why is that we want to stick to the same industry? Is because remember what I shared earlier, that in business is about time, people, money, and people is the hardest. So when you have on a phone call and you know that this guy will come and support you, he will not play you out, this takes time, right? Especially Mark will understand this in China, it's the same thing. This is really about trust, right? About your personal relationship that people wants to work with you. It's basically all a relationship. And people don't want to take away the relationship, because when suddenly you go to another space, you don't know who to call, then you have to start all over again. It's very painful. So entrepreneurship is never easy. You cannot just switch and then go to another route. You have one pool of people supporting you. Real estate is the same. Maybe 30, 40 years ago, you only need builders, contractors, all right, to do all these things, all right? But today itself, you need to incorporate fiber network. You need to incorporate things that you never thought is possible. All right, so you can see that as the whole economy evolves, you need different players to come into play. But if you constantly engage them, one day you may be a contractor, you may be a builder, developer, but next day you may be doing IoTs, etc., because you realize that that is a much easier path for you to move on, and you have really understand the business model over the years. So that I hope I answer Wei Ming's one. For Imelda's case, where you say that the picture is about making money, I think that's the fundamental to us. All right, you don't go into a business not making money. All right, so a lot of people misunderstood social enterprise. Social enterprise itself is not about charity. I started a social enterprise, and I find that this is the best model to be, because today's world is about what values are you trying to do, what good are you trying to do, and then how well can you do so that you can continue to do more good. All right, so gone are the days where you earn money first and help others. In Asia, you know, one of the biggest problem and culprit is that in Asia especially, money is never enough. All right, you got 1 million, you wait for two, wait for three. Actually, supposed to help somebody when you have 1 million, you promise that, but then suddenly say, no, just if I have another 3 million, then help is okay. So this continue and nobody helps at the end of the day. So I think making money is a fundamental, because that keeps the business going. But your objective must be very clear. If your objective is to make more money, then you won't last long, because you will spoil a lot, burn a lot of bridges, and you are just going after money. After that, you have all the money, then you realize that you are 80 years old. Then what can you do with all the money? All right, so I don't think making money is a bad thing. It's just a fundamental in business. That's how I see it, right?
I think the starting point, why one wants to start a company, right? I think the starting point is important, knowing what is the intention behind starting a business. Is it survival? Is it trying to make more money? Or is really a passion or a huge interest or an itch that you just have to scratch? Or it's some form of a calling, you know you have to do it, but you just don't know how, don't know why, and you just have to do it. So in the early days, we invested, 2011, we were the first Czech investors of Carousel. And honestly, we backed Carousel at a time when nobody really believed in them. And we cut that first check. And I think the starting point for them was that they found, you know, that it is, they just want to sell something that they have, a second-hand goods that they have in a marketplace, not like those very messy classifieds or Gumtree. They just want something beautiful, a very nice, simple way to sell things. And it really started from the idea. And honestly, it took so many years, probably more than 5 years or 7, before they started thinking about how to make money. I do think that, again, starting points are very important to know. And I actually do not judge for entrepreneurs who come out, who wants to just have a try at entrepreneurship, but not knowing whether they will succeed or fail, whether they'll make money or not, but they just have to find out that answer for themselves. I think that is, that's my add-on.
My name is Davina, and I would like to ask, there are always risks to be taken, especially in entrepreneurship. But on the other hand, there are also the kind of risk taking that borderlines simple bad decision making. How do you differentiate the two? When to take a gamble and when not to? Okay, I said Mark why, because he talked about, you know, his bad decision. Yeah. So Mark, what's your view?
Unfortunately, I don't have a crystal ball. You know, I don't know how to tell you when is the best time. You know, like Prof. Yu say, you know, sometimes crisis is the best time. Yeah, and then like, you know, when I went over in Hong Kong in 2008, we just had the US subprime crisis. You know, all the companies, all the listed companies say, "Wow, I got cut budget and all that." You know, sometimes it's really to take a gamble, yes, but also calculated, like what Yiping said, you know, where are you at this? Are you at this? Where is your starting point? Are you a fresh grad? Do you have a family to support? Where are you exactly? So we just do a calculated risk and we just go here, So,
yeah.
Pre-COVID, I would say that we live in a time of abundance. even actually now with COVID, somehow we still live in a time of almost abundance. Especially in Singapore, where government do have reserve to share. But in some sense, I think that when you are living in a time of abundance, you can choose. And there's a lot of choices, like really honestly, in the tech world, in my time, 2005, there was no Facebook, Google, Amazon to apply to. But now there is. If I were to graduate today, I think my life will be quite different, probably, and my opportunities will be quite different. And I actually, if it's not for COVID, maybe I think I'll live in a life of choice paralysis, decision paralysis. In 2005, when I graduated, a top job for a real estate graduate, or not just real estate, any graduate, it's around 2.5 to 3K. That's the top job price tag. Today's top job pre-COVID was about as many as from 4 to, I don't know, 10. And I think that so things I feel like has because we live in today's time and space, there's a lot more decisions that we make. And I find that the best decision is the decision that is well researched, well thought out, even if but research is not something that I call it as a perpetual decision-making process. It still have a timeline, right? And the most important is that if you know that 10 years down the road, if you look back, or tomorrow, I often think of myself as what if I die tomorrow? If I don't make that decision, could I have lived with that? So I always kind of use that death as an analogy for me to think about some of these major decision-making points. And also in my business, I had to make many pivotal decisions to survive, from one business to try to pivot. And am I going to pivot to the right business model to ensure that we survive? Again, there is no straightforward answer. I can only do my best to research. I can only do my best to say that if I stay on, I will die. If I don't stay on, I might die, but at least I tried.
I guess what is really important itself is that business is a gamble, guys. Right? It's a risk that you have to take. There's no such thing as risk-free business. If it's a risk-free business, then I think you are suited to work for somebody. Just get a salary. And that even now in COVID, you may lose your job. So I think if you ask me, how do I differentiate the two? Frankly, there is no differentiation, because none of us here can give you the answer. It's just like when you learn how to cycle, you have to fall first. All right, you have to keep falling. Then after that, when you learn when you are really good in cycling, you just keep pedal. And you just keep pedaling, you will just bring you to any location you want as well. The hardest is the experience that we need to gain. That's the reason why in entrepreneurship, I mean, I'm a Liverpool fan, right? You will never walk alone. Meaning to say is that you have to literally know that, in the business world, once you meet up with like-minded business people, we share ideas all the time, because we understand each other's pain point. We know by just talking a few, we know why you fail. You don't need to tell me how you feel, because we've been through that before. But those who would like to mentor the younger ones will tell you, please don't go this route. But one thing I find it very interesting, even though we three of us here can tell you what to do, you still go through the same route, you'll fail, and then you come back to us and say, I shouldn't have taken that route. So I think it's a human nature that all of us must fall down a few times before you learn. So frankly, there's no magical pill in business.
Thank you.
It's hard work.
Yeah, no silver bullet. Okay, I think we have to, come to a close for this session. Most important thing I need to do, of course, is to thank the three of you for your time, for your sharing of your experience, your knowledge, and your wisdom. It is always very inspiring to hear and to learn from those people who have gone through that entrepreneurial route, and then whether they have been successful or not, okay, they actually have proven themselves. And I think the three of you have certainly shown that, and by sharing that experience with us.